Welcome back to the In Between podcast. Today, I am sitting down with Emily Climer, salon owner, stylist, and educator who's built her business through a lot of trial, failure, and figuring it out in real time. Emily was such a pleasure to have on this episode because I have never really even chatted with a hair salon owner, let alone a stylist. And I give them all the respect in the world because you're really trying to please an expectation that someone has in their head. Emily was told early on that she would never color hair again, and then she turned around and she built a whole salon and team. She's had over 80 employees, and it is so inspiring because I have a similar story. I was told I wasn't good at social, and here I am running a whole agency. So it just goes to show you can do anything in this life. In this episode, we talk about the hard moments behind the scenes, team turnover, tough decisions, grief, and learning how to not take it all personally, which that's hard. If you're in the messy middle of building something that's maybe not quite clicking, or you're trying to figure out where your next right step is, this episode's really going to help you because Emily in real time has made the messy middle a part of her journey that has allowed her to build something so incredible. So check out this episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to the In Between podcast. I'm your host, Cassidy Owen, and I'm the founder of Cassidy Lynn Social, a social media management agency dedicated to helping brands find their authentic voice online. But more importantly, I'm someone who believes that the real magic happens in the messy middle, the in-between moments that shape who we become. Every week, I sit down with female founders, entrepreneurs, and incredible humans who are navigating growth, failure, and everything in between. So grab a nice coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's conversation. Welcome to the In Between podcast. I'm super excited to have Emily Climer on this episode. Emily, this is our first time meeting, which is always my favorite because we get to have fun and get to know each other. I'm really excited to hear your story because I have never interviewed anyone who is in the beauty industry, hair specifically, and that industry is massive and you guys work so hard. So I'm really excited to hear just about, one, what you've learned in the industry and how you decided to go off and build your own brand and your own salon.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here. So I set off just as a young girl that wanted to be a hairstylist. I said I wanted to be a hairstylist at 10 years old, and I never changed my mind. I was raised by an entrepreneur, and I never really saw myself that way. But now that I look back, there's a lot of things that I learned from being raised by an entrepreneur. I had a couple of mentors throughout my life. My mom actually was a hairstylist, but she never made it out of the kitchen. I think she worked in a salon for like 6 weeks as a shampoo person, but she was just always in and out of jobs and never could hold a job. She wanted to be home, but she wanted to work. She could never decide. And so, I just wanted to be a hairstylist. And then I had a mentor growing up too that was a hairstylist. And actually, I worked with her in the very first salon I worked at. So I had the opportunity to go to beauty school in high school and just dual enroll. And I never really saw myself in college. I didn't really like high school. I mean, I partied a lot, but I had a lot of fun in high school, like way too young. I worked a lot, and I didn't really like the academic part. I graduated with honors, and I passed all my classes, but only because I had to, not because I wanted to. So I knew I was creative. Even in high school, I would decorate the covers to all my papers to try to get extra credit because I wasn't as good of a writer because I was creative, right? I took art class all the time. So I went to beauty school in high school. I graduated, literally was able to take my state board test, but I wasn't old enough in the state of Michigan to actually get my license. So I had to wait to take my state board test because you had to be 18 at the time, and I was 17. So I worked through a bunch of different salons, and I literally had every different job you could have. I worked in private salons, I worked at corporate salons. They wanted me in management, and I just kept navigating. I relocated to Vegas, working for a corporate salon. I knew that wasn't my end goal, but in my small town, no one else would hire me from where I was. So when I got to Vegas, I kind of went through a bunch of different salons, and honestly, I got to a point I couldn't find anywhere I wanted to be. So a mentor and we just decided, well, let's create it then if we can't find it. So we started our suite. And a lot of stylists work in suites, and a lot of people think actually it's great, but it's really lonely to work in a suite by yourself. It's just not a place I ever was very happy. I worked with my partner for a while, and then we just had different goals. She got pregnant. She wasn't planning it. Motherhood was a lot on top of her other job, on top of being a stylist too. And so we parted ways, and then I found myself in a suite by myself. And I was like, I don't like this. It feels alone. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I need a bigger suite and I need to rent chairs. So I tried that. I couldn't grow a team at that time with renters because everyone was their own business, and I'm trying to grow us together. There are some people that do it very successfully. It just wasn't the way for me. So I found this coaching program, and they gave me the opportunity to start training stylists and hiring stylists. So I started doing that, and I was like, I need a bigger space. So I opened a storefront, and here we are now. It's had so many ups and downs, and it is a very tricky market to be in, is leading creatives, right? So, but honestly, I never wanted to be a salon owner. And once I started in the sweet stuff, my dad always said, you'll never be successful until you have people work for you.
That was the entrepreneurial mindset of his.
It was.
What kind of business did he own?
Oh, so he had several different businesses. He had rental properties starting from, I think, even before I was born. And he was risky. He was very risky. Lots of rental properties. They were all Section 8. So even during COVID, he got paid because Section 8 properties are government. So he got paid from all of them. And he worked as a partner of a custom home building business back in Michigan. He started his own custom home building business. And then when the auto industry in Michigan crashed, he lost everything. And then he moved to Vegas, which is why I ended up here. I followed him. And he started a franchise called Kitchen Tune-Up. So it was always construction or housing, real estate kind of thing. And he was pretty successful at it. I sometimes wonder if he held himself back because he didn't want employees. He just did subcontractors all the time. And I always wonder why he didn't take that challenge. He passed in December this year. So I was always wondering, why didn't he do that? But now that I've been through it, I get it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to have W-2 employees.
Yeah, I could imagine. I only have subcontractors as well, and it's a line that I'm going to keep thinking about that. Luckily, I'm not at the decision yet, but I could see there's benefits to both, and there's also hardships to both. You mentioned in a prior conversation that your dad almost raised you guys like employees, and I loved that. Can you describe your childhood a little bit and how that correlation makes sense in your brain?
Yeah. We had a pretty tough childhood. We actually lost our mom at an early age, so my dad was sole provider as of 10 on, and that's kind of when he started his entrepreneurial journey, other than just having rental properties, but really getting into owning a business. So yeah, he would do all kinds of things, and I think he was very creative with his parenting style, and now as a new parent, I love that. So he would literally pay us allowance in a checkbook register. So he was like Bank of Dad. We would have to add it in every week and subtract it out when we took money out or went to the movies. And way back when we had actual phones and not cell phones, I used to run up the long distance phone bill because I had friends that went to other schools that were in other counties, and I was calling boys all the time in high school. And so I was always negative in my checkbook register. A couple of the other things he would do is he would, every Sunday, it was a challenge. So he was like, okay, what are we going to have for food this week? And he literally had a list on the inside of the cabinet. And it was just so structured, all of our childhood, I guess. It's how we were employees. So we had to open the cupboard, choose what we were going to make. We each had to sous chef a couple of items through the week of cooking. And we would have to go to the grocery store. He would challenge us to the grocery store to figure out the total before we got to the checkout. And again, we didn't have cell phones. So we were adding in our head the whole way through the store. And if you got closest to the total, you would get a candy bar at checkout. So, and then we would have to cook throughout the week. We had our schedule. So yeah, he was kind of non-emotional. If you are emotional, you're attracted to non-emotional. And he just ran everything as if yeah, this is how it is. This is the way that the operation works, and this is how our house works. So
Yeah, he sounds very analytical, and that he
Yes.
found a system that worked for kids and how he was going to run his family. And he's like, okay, this is how it works, which I would assume, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there was a certain safety in that of knowing what was coming and how certain systems in your household worked.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you plan on implementing any of his parenting?
I love them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How old is your baby?
10 months. So he's still very little. Yes.
Yes.
But
very little for the adding, but you'll get there.
yeah. Yeah. But like chores and jobs and things around the house, and I think getting paid in a checkbook register is genius.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially the cooking part and even the checkbook part, like that creates a well-rounded human and adult, right? So even though as kids, like, of course, it probably felt fun, those are things that are real world experiences that as a kid you didn't even know, or you're using every day now as an adult with a business and a family.
Yeah, for sure. I love cooking. That's like a passion I have outside of owning a business. And so, yeah, I will definitely be teaching my son how to cook.
I love that. And I commend your father because he obviously raised very capable and entrepreneurial kids, humans.
Yeah.
I know in your story you talk a lot about a experience that you had when you were told you could never color hair again, and that was kind of a defining moment in your business. Could you share that with us, that moment?
Yeah. So I was just brand new out of beauty school. I had to wait that little period of time to actually take my test. Finally got it. Halloween is my anniversary for my license. Kind of fun. So it had to have been like right around within that first 3 to 4 months of being a hairstylist. And I had these 2 clients on a Saturday, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to formulate color, because a new stylist doesn't know how to formulate color. For the first, 6 months is hard, even year is hard. 2 years, 3 years, they finally get it, because there's so much knowledge to know about color formulation. So someone else in the salon was kind of formulating for me, overseeing what I was doing. And I took care of the clients. I even sold the product. I closed the salon by myself. They cashed out. They walked out the door. For whatever reason, I didn't lock the door behind them. They came back in and then wanted to talk to the owner. I don't know what I did. I have no idea to this day. So I put them in touch with the owner, and then that was a Saturday. I came back to work. I think Tuesday was my next day back on shift. And when I walked in, they pretty much told me, or the owner told me, I wasted my whole weekend away from my golf tournament dealing with this problem of these clients, making it my fault that she was interrupted, which as an owner, I would never make anyone feel that way. And so she was like, you're never going to color hair again here. And I felt like someone just ripped my career away from me and everything I'd known. So you feel lost. And I almost felt like I got fired in that moment, because why would I work in a salon after I just spent all this time learning how to color hair to never be able to color hair again? So a friend of mine that had worked with me at that salon went to this other salon recently, and similar experience, I'm assuming. Funny, we've never talked about it. I should ask her now, all these years later. But anyways, I went, I interviewed, and I got the job, and I left because I was like, why would I even continue that? It was hard. And I think the mentality of salon owners and stylists then were different, because this is over 20 years ago. But still, it's a very defining moment in my career. Just like I always feel terrible when I have to let someone go from my training program. And it's a real thing that I have to do, because I have to have standards and boundaries, and I can't just allow anyone to do anything without following the rules. But letting someone go because of making a mistake is something that's actually defined my company. We say from number one, mistakes are okay. Every mistake we will learn from. And I even talk to people about the different ways that they can make mistakes, even in their interviews, because I don't ever want anyone to feel that way about what I've created. So I think it was a really defining moment, and just something really hard for an 18-year-old to experience.
I think it's really a classic entrepreneurial mindset to turn around and be like, okay, I'm just going to start my own thing. I'm just going to go and do it my way. I have a similar story with how I started my business. Is someone was like, you're not good at social media, you're not going to make it far. And I was like, okay, I'll start my own agency and see how that goes, right? And now I've been in business for 5 years. So it's something in that entrepreneurial spirit of someone telling us we can't do it that's like, I'm going to prove it to you and do it so much better. In that experience, you've already kind of mentioned some of the things of how it impacts your business today. You've had, and correct me if I'm wrong, over 80 employees. Your business is very successful and it has had those ups and downs. In that lesson and other lessons within your career, how has it impacted how you are as a boss and how your employees interact with you?
Sometimes I let people do things for too long before I correct it because I always want to be like very kind in my ownership and leadership because I care deeply about everyone. I'm an Enneagram 2, so I'm the considerate helper. I just want to help everyone succeed. Sometimes that comes off too much, and sometimes even people think, why does she want to help me so much? It's just like who I am. But I do think that when things happen and people in my company reach out to me, I'll talk them through the situation and I'll kind of help them explain, hey, like you made a mistake. So what did we learn from this mistake and how can we do something better from it next time? And just reminding them that it's not their fault. I read it from a book and there's 2 ways that people make mistakes. And it's funny, I just put out my TikTok this week, but so the 2 stories is the popcorn story and the flashlight story. So the popcorn story, it's like little Johnny is making popcorn in the stove in like 1950 because they didn't have microwaves. The plastic bag of the kernels hits the side of the pan as he's pouring it in, and the popcorn goes all over the floor, and there's like a big noise, and the parents come in, oh my gosh, Johnny, are you okay? And he learns, yeah, hot pan melts plastic, popcorn will go all over the floor. My parents supported me in that, and it's okay to make a mistake. I learned my lesson. I'll do better next time, right? That's the way that we should all learn. It's not the way that we all learn, unfortunately. The other side of it is the way most of us learn, and it's okay because none of our parents messed up. They just didn't know what they didn't know, right? Years of therapy to get to that point. So this one is actually a friend of mine that I know, and it's little Michael. So he's holding the flashlight while his dad fixes the breaker box. And his dad is getting anxious and mad that he can't fix the breaker box, that's not going right. And he's blaming little Michael for like holding the flashlight wrong. So little Michael grows up that every time that there's a mistake, it's his fault and he's not good enough and he's bad and he's all these things. I share this story with my team all the time because I think it's a huge thing of how do you make mistakes, and even every employee coming in, which of the 2 are you, or are you a mix? Because I was a mix of the 2. I had 4 parents raise me for a certain period of time. I had step parents, so I had a mix of those. And so sometimes even in my own head, I go back to, oh, I'm not good enough because I made this mistake. But if you take those mistakes and change the outcome like we've done as entrepreneurs and make something of it, it's not a mistake anymore, it's a life lesson.
I love those examples and that story. Thank you for sharing. I completely agree. And I think it's, as the business owner, right, kudos to you for setting that tone from the beginning on making mistakes. You're allowed to make mistakes and how we can handle them as a community and a business. I mean, I assume there's points where maybe the mistake went over too much, right? And you have to take action. I mean, is that something that you experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every new stylist that we train, their biggest fear is either someone's hair is too short or it broke off, right? No one wants to do that to your hair. So if anyone listening has had a stylist that's messed up their hair, like, look, we will remember that story to our grave, the person's hair that we messed up, okay? But yes, like I think there are times where as an owner, we have to refund someone's money because they just got the color so wrong, the client doesn't even want to come back. And sometimes it's just easier to refund than to even deal with the situation. But of course, we always as a team want to support that stylist. So if there's a customer complaint, we reach out to the stylist first, say, hey, this person had this complaint. Can you tell us what happened? We hear from them, then we reach out to the client and we figure out, hey, do you want to come back and have the stylist fix it? We'll make sure that they're guided through, everything's good. Or do you want to see another stylist to have it fixed? We'll do either or, and we'll leave it with the client to decide what they feel comfortable with. Most of the time they come back, and we actually started calling it an edit. We got it from another stylist. I like that word, an edit, instead of a redo. But you know, hair is very creative field. And you could tell this stylist, this one, and this one, all to do the same picture. They would all have a different response to how they were going to get there. I mean, there's the laws of hair color, and then there's the creative side. So we can have standards of how we do things, but it's such a creative thing that everyone's going to see color different. Everyone's going to see different things, and a lot of it's in the consultation. And a lot of times, too, the clients come with all these terms that they learn on social, right? Like the cowboy copper was a thing a couple years ago, but there's 20 different colors that you could do to get that color. So it's hard to just use a name without really looking through pictures and having the best consultation to make sure you know what exactly they want.
I've never even thought about that, and it's so true. If I think I've never colored my hair, but I've cut it, obviously, and there's been times where I've gone to different stylists for the same cut and it looks different. So when you say that, especially about the cowboy copper, I'm like, wow, that is enlightening, because you really think that you can send this picture and expect it to look the same as even the person who you're showing the picture to, right? And like, even when they do it on you, it could look different than what you expected, on top of the fact that each stylist is going to do it differently.
And then there's chemistry too. So like everyone's hair is at a different starting level. Your hair is naturally blonde then if you've never colored, which is beautiful. It looks like color. So if you wanted to go copper, it would be super easy. We just put something over. But if you had black box color and you wanted to go copper, that's like a 6-hour transformation. If we can even get it to copper, we might only be able to get red, which is a different color of copper.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. I commend you guys for what you do, because you have long
there's a
days
lot of
on
science
your feet,
behind it.
6 hours. That's insane. So one of the things that I love that you mentioned in your form that I had you fill out was that you call it growing people for a living. What does that look like day to day? Like, how did you come up with that phrase, and what is that?
It's not my phrase originally, but
Okay.
I've been using it for a long time. So it's a coaching company that kind of helps me see that I could do that as a position, as a career. So I thought that I wanted to become a Redken artist. We're a big Redken salon. Most people know their products. They're a great brand. They support us a lot. Anyways, I thought that I wanted to be an artist. So I went through all these trainings, passed all these tests to become an artist. And I was like, I don't want to travel the world teaching like that. I want to grow my own team here. I want to be in Las Vegas. And at the time I was working on a lot of clients. I like working on my clients. I just want to train while I'm working. So they have a co-stylist program. So we started implementing that, where I had an assistant and then I would keep training the assistant. So much so now I actually have a digital course called the New Stylist Blueprint, where I use it for my company, but I also use it to help other owners train their stylists. And for me, growing people for a living, it's not just about the hair, because I would say 80% of it is your headspace of being a stylist. And I've been talking a lot about this on TikTok lately too. I've been really obsessed with TikTok lately.
I love it.
I love social media. But one of my stylists even posted this video, and it kind of got me started thinking a little bit deeper. And I know all of this, and it's all about what I teach. But she said that she's been a hairstylist for a year now, and the hard part is mentally getting over not pleasing a customer, or having that customer complaint, or having all that noise in your head, because it is an art, right? Like, you're standing up on the stage, we call this salon floor a stage, and you're performing this art on this person, and they're paying you, and they have expectations, and you have expectations, and you have to meet somewhere in the middle, otherwise they're going to be unhappy. So I think it's like, as a new stylist, you're showing up to work every day, you're learning all these new things that you've never even heard before. You're trying to grow as much as you can and grow your business, learn marketing, learn photography, all these things. Your educators are telling you what you got to do, and then also you have to take new clients and figure that out. And like, mentally, that's why most stylists don't make it, is because they can't get out of their head about mistakes that they made or whatever. Just like I have a defining moment of a mistake I made, right? So there's been these TikTok viral videos where this client got fired by their stylist, and like, it went viral. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, but I even made one about it today because I was like, do you know how hard it is for a stylist to fire their client? That has a lot of weight on it. There had to have been lots of issues before they said, oh, okay, bye. There are some stylists out there that are quick to fire, but it's very few and far in between. We all care so much. And every single hairstylist becomes a stylist because at one point in time, they had someone make them feel not beautiful. I've interviewed, I don't even know how many stylists now. I've interviewed a lot. I know I've had at least over 80 employees. I mean, currently we have about 15 on our team. The turnover was real for several years, but all hairstylists are out on the same journey to help make people feel more beautiful. And when clients are not nice back to them, it's really hard for them to keep recovering over that over and over again.
Yeah. You bring up such a good point when it comes to the mindset of it. And I relate to that in the sense of social media, because obviously being a social media manager is a creative role as well. And there's expectations of the client and there's expectations of me. And I'm designing their socials. And if it's not what they wanted, it's the same mindset of like, oh man, like I did it wrong. And I think in the beginning of my business, I really struggled with the mindset of putting what happened with this client over here on top of this new client who has a completely different mindset, but it's my shame I'm carrying over to the next client, right? And so then they come and they quote unquote sit in my chair as what yours would, and I already am bringing that shame to that appointment. And then of course I'm going to have a negative mindset. Of course I'm going to be doubting myself. Of course I'm going to be feeling like a failure. But it's a whole new person. It's a whole new situation. And I think that's a really hard lesson to learn, to like, hey, this happened and we learned from it and we grew from it, but it stays over here. And now we get to start fresh.
And I think part of growing people for a living is we do have a W-2 model. I am a unicorn in swimming in a sea of 1099 or rental salons and teaching those people. So I'm paying for them to be part of our team, investing into them, being their biggest cheerleader, helping them grow, hoping that their mindset doesn't take over, right? So in growing people for a living, I take that seriously. And I think I actually listened to one of your podcast episodes this morning and I really liked it. But I think she even said something along the lines, or maybe it was a different one. Anyways, I wake up every single day and I'm like, okay, how are we going to change this and keep growing? Because I don't want to tell all those people that I have to let them go or we have to ever close our doors. That is a real fear of being an owner of a business that has W-2 employees. And not that it's necessarily a fear, but like that keeps me going because they're counting on my decisions as an owner in marketing and all the other decisions I get to make to bring home a paycheck to feed their families and to take care of them. I take that so seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. What are other mindset things that you personally do? I mean, obviously you have that stylist mindset that you've worked through, but now you're also the owner and, like you mentioned, in charge of the growth. What are things that you do personally to make sure that you're in your sharpest mindset to be the great leader that you are?
So people think I'm crazy because I have a new baby, but I've been at the gym at 5:30 in the morning most mornings.
Wow.
I co-sleep with the baby. I literally go to sleep at 8 or 9 o'clock with the baby, and I wake up at 4:30, 5-ish to go to the gym at 5:30. Literally, weight training clears my mind and allows me to keep going. I've competed in weightlifting in the past, so I always go back to just lifting weights. And I found this great gym that I love, so I've been doing that since I lost my dad. It was about 4 months ago. I can't talk to him anymore, and he was like my big person to talk to all the time. So I've been journaling to my dad and like just telling him about everything, and that's kind of helped my mindset stay clean and just kind of talk it out. Like talk therapy is a big thing. So I've been doing a lot of that. I love meditation, but I haven't been making time for that one lately. But I have been doing more just changing my mindset. So the loss of my dad kind of triggered me a little, and I kind of went down like a negative thought circle path, and we all do it, right? We're all humans. So when I start to think something negative, I'm like, no, and I change it to positive, but that's like a conscious effort. And then I'm a huge believer in manifestation. I'm a visionary, and a lot of people along my journey, they're always like, I don't know how you just say something and it happens. It's naturally a part of my life. I don't know, I'm a manifesting generator, and whatever that thing is called. I can't remember the name of it. But
Human design.
like human design, yeah. I'm a man gen, and I see it and it just happens, and I don't really know how. But if I'm in a negative headspace, it doesn't happen. Or I think negative things and they happen too. Every single employee that's ever quit my company, I've woke up and been like, this person's going to quit today, and they quit. Every time I think it. I don't know how. But like one of my salon coaches at one time, she's like, how do you do that? And actually I inspired her to get into more of the crystal, Reiki, sage, that kind of lifestyle too. And she actually wrote a book that's really great. And she mentioned me on one of the pages because I gave her her first set of angel cards. But I do a lot of different things, and I think I have a hard time sticking to one. It's like, what do I need at that moment of time? One time I even made a list of all the things that make me happy. And I just made sure I did one of those things every single day.
I love all of that. And I think it can totally be on social. Something was trending called the dopamine list. I don't know if you ever heard of that. And it's kind of like what you're saying. Essentially, it's like a list of things. You write a list of things that increase your dopamine and make you really happy and joyful, right? And so these girls were creating these dopamine lists, and they were like, okay, every day I'm going to do something from this list, essentially like your happiness list. But it's so true. Maybe you don't have a routine that you do all the time, but if there's tools and you have a tool belt and you're like, hey, I'm feeling this way, or I'm experiencing this doubt, how can I pull something from the tool belt to help me in this moment, whether it's mindset, whether it's happiness, energy, manifestation, any of the things can be used depending on what you're feeling in that moment.
Even like during some of my really difficult parts of business, like when I wasn't getting paid very much or anything like that, I would drive through where I want my dream house, and I look at the worst house on the block. I write down the address and I go look it up on Zillow. I was like, dang, they bought it in 1960, because the neighborhood I want to live, someone has to die before you buy the house to live there.
Oh my God.
And it's like a $600,000 fixer-upper at this point. So
that is awesome. I love that. I love that you have the mindset of like, let me just go there and tangibly experience it. And that way I have it in my head. I mean, that's obviously manifestation in itself, right? The visualization, the talking about it, the constantly having these conversations that eventually it happens. But it's also a lot of hard work, which you've done.
Yeah.
You've had both sides. You've had a lot of experiences that I would say a lot happens at once. You mentioned losing your dad. You just recently had a baby. And you also had another moment on your wedding, if you would be willing to share that with us, where a lot of chaos is happening at once. And you've been able to now, multiple times in your life, manage these chaotic moments. One, can you share that story with us? And two, how do you ground yourself during those times where a lot of things are happening at once?
Yeah, so I've actually never publicly shared the story, and I think it's time that I do. So I haven't ever really wanted to call anyone out or make anyone feel a certain way. I just generally miss all the people involved. So I think I'm going to kind of start backwards. So the way that I get through it most of the time is entrepreneur friends because they understand. So other salon owners, I've had tons of them as friends because I used to work for a coaching company. And then also I'm part of Entrepreneurs Organization Las Vegas now. Having that team of entrepreneurs in your back pocket that you could just call up and talk to about whatever without judgment is always how I've managed to get through. But also I think I've gone through a lot of things in my life that have pushed me to change and grow as a human. And every one of them, I'm just like, okay, how are we getting to the next level? This is just pushing us to the next level. We can manage this, we can get through, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, my husband and I planned a surprise wedding in July of 2020. I never wanted to get married again. I was married and divorced, and I was just like, I don't want it. I'm never going to change my name. I'm not doing it. But my husband has never been married. So I was like, okay, you talked me into it, twisted my arm. July 4th, we were like hanging out in our pool. We were quarantined because we got exposed to COVID. He's like, when are we going to get married? I was like, I don't know. When do you want to get married? He's like, how about when your sister comes? She booked a flight 28 days later, and we planned a wedding in 28 days. And we told no one. that we were getting married. We told them it was our housewarming party. And so we were just planning this really big housewarming party. Everything was closed. So my friend that was a DJ, he didn't have anything to do. So he signed up. My friend that was a bartender, she didn't have anything to do. So we had a bartender on staff. We went all out. We had white tablecloths, but I couldn't put flowers because I didn't want anyone to think it was a wedding. So we did crystals on every table. Anyways, my team knew that I was having a big party, and I was like obsessing about my hair and all these things, right? And we just went through all this stuff. So it was July 28th or 29th of 2020. I was sitting at the table celebrating my birthday with my dad and my sister. It was his last birthday that he was still like cognitively there because he had Alzheimer's. And I got a message from a stylist that I just trained, and she was doing really big things. I really liked the stylist, and I was so proud of her. And she messaged me and she said, "Can we meet in person?" And I was at dinner celebrating our birthdays, and I was like, shit. I looked immediately at the point of sale system, saw that she had taken all of her client information. I was like, okay, well, I know she's leaving. And I like spiraled. And she had just received a promotion. We have levels in our salon. She had just jumped to level 3. This other person I had on my team, maybe she had jumped to level 4. I don't remember what level it was. This other person on my team, everyone felt like family at this point. I loved her too. She had a lot of experience. And every time the stylist jumped, this other stylist, I don't know if it was out of jealousy or like just made her feel like crap. And it wasn't kind. I was still really young as an owner. I didn't know how to handle that situation at the time. I definitely know what I would have done now. I saw it happening and I didn't do anything because at the time I just didn't have the skills and I didn't know how. So the day before my wedding, July 30th of 2020, I met with the other stylist first actually, and I let her go. And it was one of the hardest days of my entire life. This person felt like family to me. I really wanted them to come on my journey with me of salon ownership and working for me. And I cried so much before I had to do it. I had my husband there just because I needed, a witness. I didn't want to not have someone there. I always want to make sure like I'm doing everything ethically and by the book. So also I just needed moral support. So then the stylist came in to quit, and I just said, I wanted to let you know that this person no longer works here, and I'm really sorry for what happened about that experience, and if I could take it back, I would. She still decided to leave, so I pretty much lost anything income coming into the salon other than what I was making because everyone else was like a brand new stylist. And then the next day I had to get married and be happy, and it was very difficult to turn that off and enjoy the day. Somehow I managed. I think I had to talk to at least 4 other salon owners the night before to get my head right before I could walk down the aisle. Even still now, like it brings tears to my eyes because I think it was one of the hardest days of my life as an owner. I love people. I want everyone to be happy, but having to deal with situations like that, it just sucks. And I still miss both those people to this day. And the other hard part in salon ownership is like, once someone leaves your company, it's kind of like an old school mentality. If you put in 2 weeks notice in most salons, they just say bye, cut you out the books, like never talk to you again, block you on social. And I was like, I hate that. So I'm trying to change that right now. And even another coaching program I was using, they have a different way. And when people have left in the past now, more recent, which they don't leave as much very often because they've done a really great job of changing the culture and not allowing anything like that to happen anymore. But now we kind of like break down the books like, okay, this is your client, like let's work it out as long as they're kind, right? Some people just leave or don't have that many clients yet. It was tough, and I honestly don't know how I got through, but the whole day was a blur. It was a great wedding. Everyone was shocked. My best friend, she was like, if this isn't an engagement, we're leaving. Because we weren't even engaged when we got married. Wow. He proposed to me 4 or 5 days before in secret. We couldn't even post about it because we didn't want people to know.
That is so many mix of emotions, which also what you're currently navigating with the birth of your son and the loss of your dad is the highest highs and the lowest lows. And I think in a way, it's a blessing because not many people get to experience those things. But the resilience that you build going through those moments, because like you mentioned, like you didn't have a choice. You had to take care of this business aspect, and you already had this wedding planned and you were excited. And when I was listening to the story, what I gained from it is that two things can be true, right? Like you can be really upset and literally heart crushed over this situation, and then on the flip side be so excited and in love and happy to start this next phase of your life. And you have to know how to let both things be present while also shifting from sadness here to happiest day of my life.
Yeah. And entrepreneurship is an emotional roller coaster every day. You can go all the way up and all the way down in 5 minutes. But just to reiterate the current stage I'm in with losing my dad at the birth of my son. So my son was born in June. We put my dad in a home before. So I did kind of grieve a little bit early on that just because he was not really all there. And then 5 weeks postpartum, the landlord of my current salon, I was trying to negotiate my lease before I had my son, and it didn't work out. So 5 weeks postpartum, she said, you need to sign this lease or get out. So I also had to do construction on a new salon. I was 12 weeks postpartum with a jackhammer tearing up the entire tile floor with my husband. I don't even know how I did it. It was all a blur. We had to have 3 babysitters that day just to take care of my kid. I opened my salon on January 2nd, and my dad passed on December 26th. So I think that was a very hard moment. And then I didn't have any time. I just had to go. There was no room for sad Emily. It was like, nope, we got bills to pay. We got stuff to do. I got families to feed. And that's one thing about my dad, because he was the entrepreneur in my life, right? And he always just was like, go handle business, take the call, do whatever you got to do, because he understood, and he never would judge me for that. So the writing I've been doing recently is finally getting me through a little bit more. And then we still haven't even had a service. The service is in July. So yeah, so I think now I'm finally getting it.
Yeah. But that's beautiful. And I have experienced grief in my own life with my brother passing. And a lot of times you think the grief has to happen right after. But I think that's not usually the experience for people, because I was in college when my brother passed and I went straight into finals because I didn't even want to think about it, right? It's like almost that you're avoiding it. And it wasn't till a year or two later that I then, like you mentioned, writing, that I sat down and I was in therapy and I was processing it. But I think in the beginning, it's almost helpful to have something just distract you and put you in a different mindset to keep going. And then there's this letdown period of like, okay, now I need to sit with this and listen to my feelings.
Yeah, and I think everyone's different, right? Some people just turn into a puddle, and that's okay too. Everyone has their own thing, but a couple people in my life have told me, I don't know how you've grown and changed so much into your life. And they've even said, I don't know anyone else that's grown and changed more than you have as a human in life. I'm grateful that they say that. And I even talked to my therapist about it at one point, because I was like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I had so much to go through that I had to. But also I think entrepreneurship is changing who you are. I am not the same person that I was the day of my wedding. I'm not the same person that I was when I opened my company. Every level of your company, you have to become this new version of yourself. My goal is to have a $4 million company. And we just crossed 600K last year. And even in the first quarter, we've already grown a huge amount just in the first quarter. So I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm acting like I am, because that's how you get to that next level. One of my entrepreneurial coaches too, they said, I've had a lot of coaches over the years, they said that you won't even have the same people on your team to make the next 500,000 sometimes. People have to shift, and you have to change roles and positions and even yourself. So
yeah, it's a constant evolution in who you're surrounding yourself with and who you become, all of those things, and who serves you as a coach, as mentors, as your community. And I love how many times you've brought up coaches, because I'm all for that. And I think it's the best way to grow yourself is to let other people in who are wiser and have experienced more, and allow them to pour into you and grow.
Yeah. And I think multiple coaches. Some people just stick with one coach forever. I used to compete in kettlebell sport, fun fact. And I had multiple different coaches to get me to the goal. But you learn different things from every coach. Every one of them will leave an impact on you. I've even coached salon owners that still remind me of things I've taught them. And it's always grateful to hear those things too, right? But every coach is different. And through my entrepreneurial EO, as we call it, are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with the organization, yeah. So
I'm in their accelerator program. So throughout my journey so far, I've had 3 different coaches. And every time I'm like, oh, I love this one even better. Because I'm a person, I love change too. So maybe that is another way I adapt is I do like change. But some of the other people in the group, they fear that change. Or it's like the book, Who Moved My Cheese? That one talks about the different ways people deal with change. So
yeah. That's interesting. I would definitely be the latter. I do not love change. I did it for months and then I'm like, finally, okay, I'll do it. But I think it's good that you have multiple people because, you shift, you grow, and you need new things, right? One coach can offer you this, but another coach could offer you something different. I have so much enjoyed this conversation. Talk about someone who's been through in-betweens. You are full of them and you at least have given me the perspective and the hope of like, you can get through it and you can have a beautiful outcome, and there will be grief in there and there will be hard times, but there also will be beautiful, positive times. What advice would you give someone who is in their own in-between right now?
You know what? That's so funny because I thought about this on the way here. I've been trying to write my speech for my dad's service, and in it, I want to say all these like little one-liners that he said. And I think this one literally said in my head on the drive here, and it's, tomorrow's a new day. That's it. You can start over tomorrow. Every day is a new day. You go to bed and it resets your clock. So you can take it day by day or just think of a new mindset tomorrow.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for letting me interview you and have this conversation. You have truly inspired me on this Tuesday morning, and I'm excited to share this conversation with everybody else.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
Thanks for listening to the In Between podcast. We'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this conversation gave you exactly what you needed to hear, whether that's permission to slow down, motivation to keep going, or just a reminder that you're not alone in the in-between moments. Now, if you're a female founder or a value-driven brand looking to build meaningful connections on social media, I'd love to work with you. At Cassidy Lynn Social, we help brands express their authentic voice through strategy-driven social media management. Head to CassidyLynnSocial.com to learn more about how we can work together. And if you've loved this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Screenshot it and tag me on Instagram at Cassidy Lynn Social. And if you're going through your own in-between moment right now, keep showing up. The growth is happening even when you can't see it. I'll see you next week for another in-between conversation.